Sup, guys. We're here for the TheCouncilNetwork. Let's talk about The Flash Season 3, Episode 1, Flashpoint episode review. Now, if you have yet to see the episode, make sure to go check it out on the CW before you watch this review. Otherwise, you're going to get major freaking spoilers. There's no more warnings. That's all the warning you're getting. So last season was freaking incredible. And honestly, I didn't know if this would live up to the hype. Let's just call it Arrow Syndrome, where basically your Season 3 starts off great and then could dip down really quickly because of just saturation with characters and whatnot. But that doesn't seem to be the case at all. It seems like what they're doing is setting up for something even bigger in this episode. And I really gotta talk about it. So it's been 3 months since Barry went back in time, saved his mom from dying, caused their version of the Flashpoint, because we're using the multiverse here, the multiverse theory, just keep that in mind, came into the future after saving his mom, and of course his dad technically, by getting Reverse Flash out of that time frame and bringing him into the current time frame where this episode starts, and going from there. And everything has slightly moved over, just like in the Flashpoint Paradox movie that this episode is named after. Now, this does not do exactly what Flashpoint Paradox did. I think Flashpoint Paradox was a lot bigger, but it's hard to really say yet, because remember, next week is Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl and Arrow. Well, Arrow's tomorrow night. Well, tonight when I post this. But to the point, it's hard to say how those shows will be affected by Flashpoint's events. And of course, at the end of the episode, there's that big holy shit moment. It doesn't look like we have one villain. It looks like we may have 3 or 4, and I'll get into that. So, let's read off the synopsis. What would you sacrifice to have everything you ever wanted? Barry is living his dream life. His parents are alive. He asks Iris West out on a date, and he can finally be a normal guy in Central City. Keep in mind, he still technically has a speed, but the more he uses it, the more of his memories he loses, and the current Flash is Wally, which I still find funny. He's got the typical Kid Flash outfit that we see in the original comics, the yellow and the red. He's got a little bit of the yellow lightning. I'm hoping that comes back at the back half of Season 2. He becomes, in the proper timeline. I'm going to get into that because there's just, oh my god, so many moments that I just really do need to talk about. We did not see Tom Felton. If you don't remember, Tom Felton, he was in Harry Potter, and he was basically the protagonist against Harry. I'm not a big fan of Harry Potter, to be completely fair, so I don't fully remember, but rumor is that he's Dr. Alchemy, which is super hype. We actually get to sort of see Dr. Alchemy, because he kind of scratches his name on the glass, saying, "It's time to wake up." And what he's saying, and if I'm not mistaken, that's Tobin Bell, the guy who basically is Jigsaw from Saw movies, and I had a nerdy moment when I heard that voice. I was like, oh! But to be fair, this episode brought me to tears. It brought me excitement. It would go, oh my god, they did that thing kind of moment, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I did have 1 or 2 things that I didn't like about the episode. I like what they did with their version of Flashpoint, bringing it to their kind of taste and spin on it. It was different. It wasn't copied carbon of the Flashpoint Paradox. I didn't want that. But at the same time, the one thing that I really gotta say sort of bothered me in the episode, the one thing that really bothers me in this episode is that Barry has to have a speech to get him motivated to deal with the rival, and of course it comes from Iris. I guess that's because it's supposed to set up their whole bond, that, their bond is tighter than anything, and she's the way he'll basically fix Flashpoint, because it's technically not fully fixed just quite yet. Now, I may just be sounding like I'm nagging, it's a very minor thing, but I feel like Barry has to come into his own, but it's called, it's the CW, so you're going to get that love interest there. I'm okay with it. It was still a fantastic episode nonetheless. Seeing how everyone pretty much got moved over one step, Joe is not nearly a good dad or a good father as he typically is. Iris knows that Wally is Kid Flash. She even calls him Kid Flash. And how they're working together, and, she's a writer for, of course, the paper, and that's, how she uses her connections for Wally. But, geez, there's been enough deaths in these TV shows and these Netflix shows and you go and you try to kill Wally. You put him on deathbed in this universe that is technically not supposed to exist. But we'll get to that point. The rival honestly is probably my newest favorite villain of the week. I like what he did with the tornadoes, and Cisco basically is just like, hey look, it's like he's a weather wizard. Haha, because that was Barry's first real challenge on the CW verse. That was pretty cool. Callback, they did the thing. The rival, I do have to say, I want to see more of him, and I think we're going to because of that ending. I'm going to constantly go back to the ending. Is that ending just like, kind of moment? But I love the interaction that Barry had with the Reverse Flash, where the Reverse Flash is like, you created this. What should we call this? Flashpoint. I love the Reverse Flash. I love every incarnation of him. And it's like, as the show moves, we're seeing how and where the decades that he knows Barry and he's met Barry, he's been through all these events. He even says to Barry, you know your older self is not as stupid as you are right now. And that's because that Barry went through Flashpoint, knows that he has to let go of his mom, otherwise it's going to be a giant issue. Now, the one thing I do have to mention is, because we're going to be talking a lot of time travel here, is that at some point they could do Infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths, or Crisis on Infinite Earths, however that's properly phrased. Hey, I went from not liking The Flash to loving The Flash because of this show, to be completely fair. God damn it. Back to the point, they could eventually do that way down the line when we get to like 2012 to connect it to the original season. That'd be a cool little Easter egg. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My favorite part of the episode is that the Reverse Flash is such a douche. And he basically says, don't worry, Barry, I hate you. And Barry's like, I hate you. You know, first says it first, and then Reverse Flash says it to him. And I like that back and forth dialogue where the Reverse Flash is like, I don't know which one of us is right, but I still hate you. The thing that drove it home is that he made Barry ask him, like, I need you to go back in time and do it. And then he goes, what, Barry? What do you need me to do? I need you to kill my mom. It's like, oh, right in the feels. And technically, by resetting time, you're losing your dad again. It's fucking crazy. And of course, since Barry's losing out on time, we don't know what the Reverse Flash technically did, or it's probably what Barry did when they went back in time, and I know I'm talking about that quite a bit. I do have to say, seeing Kid Flash on screen was fucking amazing. Seeing the chemistry of him not listening to Barry, I just hope in the typical timeline, you know, the regular timeline, that whole thing, you know, will work out better, because damn. Now, the one thing I do have to say in this episode that was really cool to hear was Reverse Flash say to Barry, well, I guess I have to be the hero now. I really hate this. But he has to, because without Barry, there is no Reverse Flash. And it's kind of the syndrome, what came first, the chicken or the egg. So I'm going to read off something here. So 2030 is basically when the Flash is disappeared. That's when we know the original Reverse Flash is, I guess, goes back in time. I don't really know, so probably further than that. Then you have Season 1 Flash that went back in time, and Season 2 Flash that went back in time. That's now technically erased. I guess, you see, this is the problem, and it's not a bad thing. It really, like, gets you thinking, okay, what in the world is happening here? And the biggest thing is, when they came out of that situation, I think they're going to have to go back to that night again. And the way we saw it in Season 1, the way we saw it in Season 2, prior to him stopping the Reverse Flash, they're going to have to reenact it, resetting the time frame up where everything is in the proper flow of time, because right now it's not. So basically, in short, Barry's going to have to go back where Barry's chasing the Reverse Flash around in a circle, and at the same time, he's saving himself because the Reverse Flash says, fuck it, I'm going to kill Barry. And then there's the other Barry that's hiding in the closet from Season 1. And then, of course, the Barry that tells him, no, don't do it. We have to go back to that scene that we had last year, or was it the year before? I think it was the year before. And before he tackles the Reverse Flash to cause all this. But I think Dr. Alchemy is playing a huge role in this. And he's got something to do with it to some degree. But We know Savitar is supposed to come on the show, and he's like a cult version of, I guess, the evil speedsters, to say the least. We have the Rival, looks like he'll be reoccurring, and of course we're going to have Dr. Alchemy. But the main two are going to be Savitar and Dr. Alchemy. That's been confirmed a few times. And honestly, I'm going to say this again. I hope they bring back Zoom as Death Flash, because there's so much time for it. But here's the thing, and I know I made the time pun. I like seeing how all their lives were ever shifted so much just because of what Barry did with his mom. That reflection that they did for Flashpoint in their own version was fantastic, and I hope it lingers into some degree in the other shows, hopefully bringing back the Black Canary, but not putting her on Arrow because she does not deserve to be there. Because, I'll phrase it this way, the Reverse Flash is alive because we found out last season, and it still applied, he was time traveling. Since he was time traveling, he basically missed out on the season 1 ending, right? So that happened. But we know something happened in this episode that changed the pattern. That's what I was talking about. They're going to have to go back to that. That Iris is not talking to Joe. We thought she was dead, but she's not. That scared the shit out of everyone. We know that Dr. Alchemy is playing some sort of role, and we know the Rival is pretty much about to be coming. The things we don't know is that if Eddie Thawne is back alive, we don't know where Gorilla Grodd is, but he'll be there at some point. We don't know what the crossover episode's going to be yet, and hell, maybe even Patty Spivot is coming back. I don't know. I do know, I think it's about episode 3, that Jesse Quick and her dad's supposed to come back, so Harrison Wells from Earth 2, that's been semi-confirmed. So the thing is, at this point, it should be around episode 2 they wrap up the situation. Barry will go back in time one more time to fix what he fucked up, because he fucked up bad. I mean, seriously bad. Just because the Reverse Flash did what he was supposed to, didn't really fix the timeline fully because it screwed everything up by ever so slight one over. We don't know why Joe is not talking to Iris, and I'm interested as hell by that. And of course, this is going to sound so minor, but it is important. We don't know when we're getting that brighter red Flash shoot. It's been seen in the promos, and I also want to go back to Season 1 and mention that it was shown in Season 1, technically, so that has to happen. So we can actually start moving away from the night his mom died, because that's been going for like 3 seasons, and it's making my head hurt how all the timelines work, but I think it'll be figured out probably by the end of this season. Jeez, my head hurts trying to explain all that for people who want to hear me talk about it. Episode was fantastic. Seeing what everyone was up to was great. However, I'm really curious what happened to Harrison Wells on this like new Flashpoint Earth that of course we don't have anymore because they went back. Also, it was really cool to see Big Belly Burger. Kind of makes me wish we had a real life Big Belly Burger just so I could try it. Because seriously, come on, people are living on that shit. And the Reverse Flash says to Barry, there better be some curly fries in there. That was one of my favorite lines from tonight. It really was. I know how stupid that may sound, but it was just funny because it made it more grounded and feel legit, more real. But seriously, I don't know. That Caitlin Snow getting kidnapped and not realizing she got kidnapped, that was also pretty damn funny to say the least. I gotta admit. But I can't wait to see what the hell happens next. How are they going to fix it is my biggest what the fuck for tonight. My biggest thing, that they're going to do. They could do 52 timelines later and then everything be perfect. And they get to that point much later down the line from season 1 where the Flash went missing. That they actually go to that point. Again, this could be like the last season, whatever, at that point. And that's a long time off. They could do that, then do Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then basically reboot The Flash. Or connect it to the movieverse to some degree. There's a lot going on. It makes my head hurt, but it's fun to speculate, to say the least. Episode was fantastic, and it's not too many times I do this, but this is a serious, it earned it. 9.9, if I'm being completely trying to be subjective about things. But if I'm being serious, my serious thing, also, do have to mention, when Barry gave Reverse Flash that flash ring, I geeked the fuck out. I want one of those. But honestly, 10 out of 10, fantastic episode. Do yourself a favor, go see it. I'm not going to talk bad about Arrow. I'm just going to talk about the good stuff, and I'll talk about what was bad, if anything's bad. Also, next week, great, Felicity's on the Flash. Yeah, that sums up my ideas. Sorry, just is what it is. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy the content, you're brand new, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more. And I'll see you later. Peace.